And this is still your election headquarters. There's still a bit more to try and unravel, to try and settle a few disputes across the country. And that's what we're doing tonight with the parliamentary elections that is still hanging, a few of them indeed. Today, the MPP, they've been addressing a news conference, highlighting some 12 constituencies that they believe still needs resolving. And today, we've also seen NDC supporters, again, masked up at the Greater Accra Collation Center, demanding that some of the constituencies be declared in favor of the NDC. So what really is happening? We are understanding a few things tonight. They're talking to both sides, but also looking at the numbers. And I know there's a bit of confusion in terms of where we are with the parliamentary numbers. The last time I checked, the NPP is just around 80. The NDC is just over 100 and 186. But if you look at it, there are 9 constituencies still at play. But the MPP has isolated 12 of them to be one of those pack of constituencies that necessarily needs resolving. We've seen a lot of controversies around these, and a few of them we need to isolate. Ablekuma North is a key area. Okankwik Central is another one that they've talked about. Tema Central is another key area that is still in dispute currently. With Dom Kwabenya, we know that one fascinates me because it was the evening of, I believe, the 7th, the 8th into the 9th that we were here when that particular constituency was called and declared by the returning officer for the NDC candidate, only for us to learn later that it hasn't necessarily been declared. That's very fascinating. We'll try and get some clarity on this. That's Dom Kwabenya for you. We also have other constituencies like Ahafua North, and then we also have Obuasi East and Ahafua North Southwest in the Shanti region. In Soama Dredri, that's where the majority whip is, his constituency is. And then you have Techiman South. They are a bit more, 3 more that they've talked about that are all subject now to some controversy that needs resolving. 3 of them have now been resolved. They talk about that, declared in favor of the MPP. And now, what are the key issues at play here? You have the destruction of pink sheets and electoral materials is key. The MPP had isolated that as an issue, and they blame individuals they call NDC tags for this. And then they also have issues such as the assault of electoral officers and party reps in some of the stations. We also have the overpowering of security personnel, and we have the forcing of returning officers to declare winners. Now, this is the NPP narrative, right? But one of the things that we're noticing in in the 9 constituencies still in dispute, you notice that apart from the fact that they also allege failure to writs of declaration, and we'll look at what the law says, it's the picture you see there. It is very close in these areas. And each time we've had the close election, especially when it has to do with parliamentary in a constituency collation center, it generates a bit of tension, chaos and violence. We had the same thing in Techiman South, which is still a constituency still in play. If you look at it, for example, Rukuma North, this is again according to the MPP picture, right? Because they claim they have their pink sheets. The NDC is joining me, so we'll ask them whether they have their own pink sheets and they collated their pink sheets and what the numbers tell them. You look at Ablekuma North, the MPP claims to have collated some 414. They claim that is the difference between their candidate and the NDC candidate, and that their candidate have won by that 414 votes. If he won by 414 votes, that is key. Now for Ablekuma North, it's interesting. I want to show you something on my smart wall, because if you do Ablekuma North, it's one of those areas that is still outstanding, and you see it here in this particular area that I'm going to isolate for you. And this is the area you see here, because it's white. We haven't filled it up yet. We haven't filled it because it's still a contentious subject. It hasn't been resolved yet, and that is why you see it there. I mean, let me put it here so we can see it a bit more. So this is Ablekuma North. This area here is Ablekuma North. And as I say, it is one of the areas that the MPP is isolating as one of the key areas that needs to be resolved. It's still a subject of great controversy. And the EC itself had said that some of their officers were threatened and that they were threatened with death. So it hasn't been declared. It's still white. They're waiting for that to be declared, and then that will turn either green or blue. But the interesting thing is, if indeed it is 414 votes separating the winner and the loser there, as the MPP is alleging. That is fascinating. Again, it shows the dominance of the NDC in this election. Because if you go to, say, just 2020, the gap was huge in this particular area. The gap was huge in that area, in Ablekuma North. And I want to bring it up because you will see the point here that shows the dominance. This is blue. This was blue in 2020. And you see the gap. Sheila Batels won that particular constituency by 54,000 votes, right? There. That's against the NDC's 29,000. That was huge difference there. Huge difference between this and this. Huge. But then we are now talking about 414 votes. If indeed that's true, that the NPP has won it by that, that tells you that over time, they've lost ground there. And that's not the only area I want to focus on. Because you also see that they talk about Tema Central. 55 votes they claim is the difference between their candidate and the NDC candidate. 55 votes is close. When you have 55 votes, the reason why people will ask for recollation, recounting, because they believe somehow somebody can find 55 votes to beat the other. And so it is contentious in those areas, and you may eventually have to end up in court. So Tema Central, again, is in Greater Accra region. And we know that that's another area that before the election we're watching very closely because he has a tendency of producing controversial outcomes indeed. And this is the area in question here that is of issue. I mean, Tema West has been settled, and you see it here when I pull up the current map, because in the current map you will not see it because it's still not been filled out, right? That's the hole here. That's what you see there. It's still left outstanding in Tema Central here, and I'm going to circle that for you to see. This area here. And again, 55 votes, the difference. See what happens there the last time they went to the polls. They went to the polls the last time, and the NDC really wasn't the party that you could say had won this the last time they went there in 2020, and that there was a difference, right? Hansen Norte, and this is blue, by the way, you see there in 2020. Hansen Norte won it by 31,000 votes. 31,000 votes in the last elections. Now we're talking, and NDC's Ibi Bright, 16,000 in 2020. Now we are talking about 55 votes. This is the NPP's own data they are putting out at the press conference today. If this is true, that shows you clearly that something fundamentally had gone wrong in this particular area there. That shows you the dominance of the NDC in elections. Because if you get 31,000 votes in the last elections, that's against your opponent 16,000. And now she's closed the gap to 55 votes. A win is a win, I get it. But even this is disputed. That tells you a lot. It tells you what has happened in the elections. So we have Okankwe Central. That is huge, by the way. 1,000 in the context of 55 votes is a lot. You have Ahafano North. And this Ahafano North is one of the areas during the elections that I isolated for you in the Ashanti region, was going to be an area for the NDC, because we were watching that area and they thought they could flip it to their side over time. And I called it the Western threat if you go to the Ashanti region. And it proved the point. Because in the Ashanti region, it turned out that indeed it's a threat, because I drew that whole area here, if you remember when we were covering it. And I said, this was going to be an issue. This whole area here was going to be an issue for the MPP. And it turns out Ahafano, that's Ahafano North, is in that particular area, and it's causing a bit of a tussle here. This area here is what is in dispute. 121 votes. So what really is the point here? This will take quite a bit of calm heads. It may have to end up at the courts, and we need to clarify what must happen here. Considering how close the votes are, how do you resolve this? People have been injured. In fact, people have been killed as a result of the context around these constituencies because of how close they were. How do you resolve it? In some of the areas, the returning officers have already declared the winner. And then we're hearing they have to do recollation after the collation has been done and the winners declared. There's some confusion there even about the legality of that. Let's try and understand that, because if we don't resolve these, there will be no clarity about the elections and Parliament. Remember that in the evening and the midnight of the 7th, a new Parliament must be sworn in. What will happen to the 9 MPs around which we have a dispute? There's a lot of confusion around this. You are entering the Uncharted territory here, and this must be resolved very, very quickly. And let's bring in the two parties, and then we'll speak to CDD to get some guidance on how this is resolved amicably. Today, ties were being bent again at the Greater Accra Coalition Center. So there's a lot at stake here. The presidential race is done, transition is underway, but trust me, this is where the real battle is, and we're going to try and get some clarity to this here on PM Express after this. And thank you for staying with us. There is a lot to get through for you because of the contentious subjects at play here. Lives have already been lost, and the threat already on the state institutions, but also the police today have to deal with the burning of ties again because of the disputes over these constituencies. I want to bring in my guests into the conversation pretty shortly, but know that PMS is always brought to you by Syntex Science. It is strong in the staff. Academic Times, Pep Student Cavity Fighter Toothpaste, which I always recommend to you. The Academic Times, for example, is an incoming graphic and online publication aiming to collaborate with university authorities and students to ensure that student research is publicized in summary form, which obviously we need because of the number of documents that pile up, dust on the shelves. But also, there is the question I always ask you, whether you are ready for the biggest giveaway from Syntex Science. Syntex is visiting 15 communities, giving them free water. And this is to say thank you, Ghana, for making us #1. Now, if you are a community and you really want to benefit from the Syntex free water giveaway, just log on to their social media handles, Syntex is Ghana, and nominate your community. And Syntex stands are strong, are tough, and Pepsodent Cavity Fighter is the toothpaste for you. You want to grab one, use tonight before you sleep. My guest joining me in the studio is Dr. Rashid Tanko. You know him because he has been here many times over the period. Now he's won an election. He's still here because the fight isn't really over. And he's a Deputy National Director of Elections and IT with the NDC. Also joining me is Evans Mensah, who is a Director, Research and Elections at the MPP. Dr. Tanko, Rashid, obviously, they've been engaging each other at many IPAC meetings. They meet here. But I'm delighted to say that Dr. Kojo Pumpuni Asante is a Director of Policy Engagements and Partnerships at CDD, and he also joins me because we need to get some guidance on how this can be resolved. Just before I get into the specifics, Dr. Rashid Tanko just drew my attention to the fact that there is an application before a court that they filed today, a process that they filed today, the NDC have filed today, seeking to place an injunction on 5 constituencies, the recollation of the results in 5 constituencies. And these are as follows. So they're doing this was filed today around 2 p.m. thereabout, 2:50 p.m. today was filed by the lawyers of the NDC. And this is the Dom Kwabenya is one constituency. You also have, I believe, Ablekuma Central.
Yes.
Ablekuma Central.
Yes, Ablekuma North.
Ablekuma North,
Okankwe Central.
Okankwe Central is there. You have Tema
Central.
Tema Central is there.
Obuasi.
And then Obuasi
East.
Obuasi East is also there. Those are the 5 constituencies. And you're asking the court to stop the Electoral Commission from recollating, place an injunction on the... EC had made the point that in some of the areas, the returning officers did not declare, so they should recollect. The NDC's point in this process that I read essentially is saying that they have evidence that the returning officers indeed declare the results there. And once the results are declared, you cannot recollect because there's no provision in the law for this. And they were asking the court to properly interpret that and also place an injunction on the Electoral Commission from going ahead. I mean, give us clarity on this particular matter. The Electoral Commission chairperson had already made the decision that in these areas, the declaration was not done. And even if it was not done lawfully, and that is why the recollation must happen.
Well, Evans, let me say good evening to your cherished viewers and to you yourself and your team here. It doesn't lie in the mouth of Madam Jean Mensah and the commissioners to set aside a declaration so made by a returning officer. The CI is very clear about it. The returning officer will have to satisfy him or herself on regulation 43 of CI 127 about how to collate parliamentary resource. And it's here, it's very clear. Regulation 43 on how to collate parliamentary resource, declaration and publication of parliamentary election resource. That's Regulation 43. This is where the returning officer power is closed. And also, it's simple. How is it done? It's saying that if subject to Regulation 42, immediately after the results of the poll of all the polling stations in the constituency of the returning officer have been given to the returning officer, the returning officer shall, in the presence of the candidates or the representatives of the candidate, or not more than 2 counting agents appointed by each candidate, A, assemble the results from the polling stations without recounting the ballots in the ballot boxes, except where there is a challenge by a candidate or a counting agent in respect of a specific ballot box. That means he cannot open ballot box again. His is to just assemble the results. Fill the parliamentary election results summary sheet as set out in Form 1D of the schedule. This one is the Form 1D is the results that he will use to declare. But before that, give notice of the total number of votes cast for each candidate. Publicly declare as electors in a parliamentary election the candidate who had the highest votes. And then it goes on. Mm-hmm. So this procedure, if a returning officer is satisfied with this procedure, he can now announce the results. And then he gives copies to the agents. He will give the Form 1C, which is the collation form, and then the Form 1D, which is a summary sheet. The 2 are given to you. But you have to append your signature. Now, if you refuse to sign it, you have a portion where you give reasons why you are not signing it. At that point, if he fills the Form 1C, and he's about to enter into the Form 1D, you can call for recollection. That means he has not moved to declaration yet. In the process of doing the declaration, you can arrest it and say, well, I want you to do recollection for me. He can do that by going through the Form 1C, all the 200 polling stations that he has put into the Form 1C. If you fail that process, if you refuse to seek that opportunity given you, then he filled the Form 1D, then it means he's in the process of declaring the results. That is the one he'll be holding like this and be announcing so-and-so got this, so-and-so got this. It means he's reading from the Form 1D. Now, when he does that, it means he has finished. In law, what we call functional officials, it means his business has ended.
Which is your argument in the process?
Yes, in the process that we have got in course. That his business has ended. So long, as soon as he entered the writ and submit same to the EC, his business is finished.
But why? The MPP's point is, your supporters, he says, with the support of senior executives of the party like yourself, you are holding returning officers, sometimes at gunpoint, threatening their lives, and they are being forced to make these declarations. And a lot of them did it under duress. And we've seen some of the supporters there who are, and today we saw one. We were at the Greater Accra Coalition office, and your supporters were then in numbers, burning ties and all. Isn't that where the problem is, and that these declarations were done illegally?
Evans, you and I, we are not judges. It is only a judge of competent court or jurisdiction who can define duress. Who can define? They cannot define. It doesn't lie in their mouth.
Okay, hold on. So let me bring Evans. Evans Namako, I want to isolate one constituency because I witnessed the declaration of the results there at the parliamentary level live here. I was in the studio here when this unfolded. This is Dom Kwabenya. The candidate, the NDC candidate, was formally declared the winner. And she actually gave an acceptance speech there, and everybody moved on. So, and I'm reading the CI, and it's very clear. After the declaration is done, you can go to court and challenge it. Why are you not going to court to challenge it?
Well, Evans, good evening, and thank you for having me. I think the issue at hand is very simple. Today, Dr. Rashid Tanko can sit at your studios and run his mouth. He had the CI with him. He read portions and left others. When you take the CI 127, the very regulation he read, 43, is 43.1 up to H. I wish you would have gone through all. Declaration of results at the constituency level terminate when the returning officer issue out the Form 1B, which is the rate. Ask him, let him show you evidence of Form 1B, Form 1C, Form 1D from all these constituencies. And I'm happy you are able to tell him that in a constituency that the results were being collated at the Greater Accra Regional Coalition Center, you saw what happened.
And that's what you have. That's what you have on your screen there.
Evan,
and this is from today. Just making the point for those who have not followed. This is the Greater Accra Coalition Center. And what you see on your screens there are the supporters of the NDC parliamentary candidate who have showed up, and they had bent ties all along the area, just demanding that the results be declared in the favor of the NDC candidate. Yes?
Evans, in each polling stations where results are counted from 8A, which is the parliamentary, is filled, copies are given to agents of all the candidates. Same as from 8B, which is the presidential result sheet. At the constituency collation stage, from 1C, which is the collation sheet, copies must be given to candidates or their agents. Same as Form 1D. The Form 1B is issued by the returning officer to the EC, which is the rate, and that is filled by a returning officer and indicate that Evans Mensah beat Dr. Tanko, and therefore he is the candidate elect. Got this number of votes. Let Dr. Tanko show us that they have for all these constituencies, from 1B, from 1C, from 1D. I think that will bring to an end this whole long discussion. And Evans, we made this issue clear to NDC that in 2004, in Pro constituency, when a declaration had been made by a returning officer in favor of an MPP candidate, King David Amwa, NDC raised issues. The EC conducted another collation in Sunyane, which was the regional capital for then Bono region. And the results were overturned in favor of the NDC candidate. History will tell us. And so today, they can run their mouth. If the NDC and their supporters had allowed the returning officers the space, the environment, they would have done this in all these constituencies that issues have been raised. Evans, in December 7, we went into elections for 2 elections, presidential and parliamentary. Before the EC came out with presidential results, final presidential results, the New Patriotic Party's presidential candidate had thrown in the towel because we knew. So in these constituencies, we know the numbers because we have all the pin sheet. But I'm happy you mentioned Dominic Kwabenya. Call the returning officer and ask, based on what was that declaration done?
Well, I mean, watching on television, he read from the sheets as he has it. I mean, from the fill out the parliamentary election results summary sheet, as set out in Form 1D of the schedule, give the public notice, then publicly declare as elected in a parliamentary election the candidate who has the highest votes.
Don't be cajoled to accept that. Don't. In a coalition center that had been attacked, and parties have been told that coalition will continue later. because it was inconclusive. And you are telling me that the returning officer was reading from what? From 1C, from 1D, that you have copies. I think we can do ourselves a great service. There were returning officers and their deputies. There were police officers assigned to all these collation centers. Media practitioners were there. They were accredited in all these collation centers.
Yeah, I mean,
can we find out from them?
Evans, you make the point about what happened in the past, that in an instance, I believe you said in 2000, there was a case in 2004, but that wasn't challenged in court. The NDC have taken this matter to the court as at 2:50 today. What's your reaction to that? They want an injunction and recollation.
Well, go to court has become a cliche from the NDC. They are entitled to it. I'm happy you are not the bailiff. They should serve the appropriate stakeholders involved, and we'll see what will come out of the court. But for us, the major contest, the presidential, the new patriotic party said, yes, we've gone through a very beautiful exercise, and we think that Mr. Mahama, the former president, has obtained more votes to constitute government, and therefore we've thrown in the towel. What is as beautiful as this? But Evans, today, you had gone into a contest, and you've been proclaimed to be the winner. What do you have to show? Where is the Form 1A?
And I'll come to that. I'll come to that because that really boils down.
Evans, please let me conclude. Please let me conclude.
Okay.
You have to go home to your wife. What form do you have to say, my dear, this is the form that have been issued to me by the EC, the collation sheet, the summary sheet that says that I have obtained this number of votes and therefore I am the elected MP for this constituency. If the NDC have the pin sheet, why are they running away from this?
I'll ask Dr. Tanko Rashid on that. But quickly, I want to bring in Dr. Mumpuni Asante. I'll come to you, Dr. Rashid Tanko, for clarity on whether you have those sheets he mentions. But, Doc, we've had a beautiful election. I mean, considering the concession that came very, very early and helped deal with the tensions that we knew were going to be building. Now we're having the challenge with these 9 constituencies. And you see on your screens there, violence, vandalism, burning of public property, etc. How do you resolve this? The NDC is in court as of this afternoon. You've heard the arguments for and against. So where do you stand? Give us some guidance on this.
Well, thank you very much. I think it's really disheartening to see the things that are going on, particularly the violence and the agitation and the intimidation. I think it's not justified. There's nobody is going to use any intimidation or violence to facilitate the determination of the election outcome. At the end, no matter what you do, at some point, you have to go back to the law, right? You have to go back to the law. You have to go back to the processes. So really, I mean, before even I get into your the question that you're asking, it's an appeal again that the people massing up, people trying to demand that electoral officials determine elections on their behalf and so on and so forth. That has to stop. I mean, how many days after December 7th that we are still engaging in this? It does not help anybody. And I really think that the party leaders, the parliamentary candidates that are involved should really call their people to order, because it is not acceptable. Ghanaians didn't go through all of this on December 7th to have to endure all of these issues that people are trying to do. Now let's deal with the facts on the ground. A lot of these collation centers, and we have to acknowledge that we had 276 collation centers, and most of them went very well. And we have a couple of them where we are having challenges. A lot of them closely, very competitive, electoral area, constituencies where all the time we have these kinds of issues. The kind of atmosphere that were created in those collation centers was not conducive for any kind of collation, to be done properly, right? So, yes, I think you have to deal with it case by case because different things happen in different places. This is not the first time that the Electoral Commission have had to call back, a process and say that, no, we have to look at it again and collate. My challenge is that in all of those circumstances, no matter what the situation is, even whether it's a collation or recollation, it's in the same pink sheet that everybody have that we are all looking at. I mean, what will be the challenge if in those cases the Electoral Commission said, well, either a certain procedure was not followed, they want to make sure that it is done well. The party candidates agents still have the same pink sheets. Even when it goes to court, the court is not just going to say, oh, the declaration is done and we move forward. If somebody goes to challenge it in court, after even the court says, well, somebody has made the declaration and therefore we should proceed, it will still come back to determine whether or not the person was validly elected. So why don't we sort all of those things out by just agreeing, having some consensus that, okay, if there has been any challenges, we can look at it again. After all, the recollation, there's no limit to it. Instead of people going out there and hurting themselves on the streets and all of that, we can avoid all of these things and just go through the process. So I just think we are dragging, a lot of issues. Yes, there are legal issues to be, to be sorted out.
The NDC is in court. Is that the right approach?
Which the NDC about when determination of the election, at what point is determination of the election? In spite of what everybody's reading from the CI. Yes, it's a valid question that can be tested in court. But can we also look at other ways, as I said, of trying to resolve this matter maybe once and for all, since everybody seems to have their pink sheet, and the EC also has its pink sheet.
But it appears to me that the only way out here is through the courts. I mean, because the both parties will never agree.
That's what both parties have chosen. But what I'm saying is that it seems to me a long way round out of it, because what everybody is avoiding, we will come back to it, which is to check the pink sheets again. If right now the NDC gets an injunction, fine, injunct the process. Now you are going to have to start it. The court has to make a determination whether or not a declaration was made and therefore it's final. Then somebody says, okay, now I'm going to go and contest it in court whether something was validly elected. It will come back to determining whether or not those pink sheets reflect the will of the people. So I don't know what exactly we are looking for.
This
parties have to look at this very clearly.
This contested concept of recollation, which the NDC is fighting. They say there's nothing like that in the rule book. There's nothing like that in the CI.
They are saying recollation.
Yes.
As in after
declaration.
Understanding of declaration. Yeah. Yes, that's the point. Yeah.
Post that. There's nothing like recollation after the declaration. Where do you stand on that, knowing what you know at Codeo and CDD, doing elections and monitoring over time?
No, as I said, my colleague, the national coordinator for Codeo, Mr. Ahin. Mr. Ahin can give you many examples when the Electoral Commission have had to go back. And he will give you one example when we were actually posting results at the square, the Black Star Square, where results had been declared and they found out that there were mistakes. They went back and corrected and changed it. So the point is, it may be fine. At that time, as I said, somebody can go to court and say, that is not the Electoral Commission's job once the declaration is done, and then let the court make that determination. But I think from the Electoral Commission's point of view, it is that at least they have to do their job and make sure that they follow the procedure to make the declaration. So if the procedure is wrong, if there's an error or they feel they want to correct that before somebody can challenge it, I don't think it's unreasonable to make that point. But I think, as I said, if the parties want to take the route of wanting to make a legal determination of this, then that's fine. But I think really it drags this process on, and creates all this drama that we are having around the polling centers, and people fanning people's position that, oh yes, my people have won, and you are now trying to take it away from me. Even when that is resolved, it becomes very difficult to deal with it that way.
Dr. Rashid Tanko, it comes down to the subject of the pink sheet. Do you have your pink sheets? Today at the press conference, the MPP, they put out their own collated results for these disputed parliamentary elections. Very detailed and direct to the next number. 414, they say they won by in one constituency. Then they talk about 55 in the other because they were putting their own pink sheets together. Do you have yours?
Evans, I was at the collation center. The ones they are talking about, they came with photocopies. Electoral Commission never gave us photocopies. They gave us carbon copies of pink sheets. Ask them.
Those are scanned copies they have?
They are not scanned, because they are photocopies. So we asked them, where did you get it? That's why we had to injunct in Sawan Adojri. All the pink sheets they brought, they were photocopies. They were not carbon copies. Evans, I want to correct some impression. This CI was promulgated in 2020, signed by Madam Evans Mensah. You cannot go and take old CIs of 2004, issues that happened at that time, as basis for your argument now. Those CI, the issues in them were promulgated at that time to solve some matters. It has something to do with recollation at that point. I remember vividly in 1996, the one doctor was talking about, Pomponi, where we're putting it on board and all that, writing it and the flag square and all that. Around 96, thereabout. Those CIs at that time had provisions for that. This current CI, 120, has no provision for what they are talking about. And you don't just use issues that happened in 2004. Evans was talking of 2004
But do you have your pink sheets?
We have enough pink sheets. We have almost all the pink sheets. That's why I'm saying that. I've just given you, for instance, a declaration made at Domi Kwabinya. He was talking of this. The Form 1C was properly filled. We have it. We have copies. We have copies of the Form 1D. Evan, let me also correct an impression. Form 1B is not given to candidates, agents.
So
that
it
is
says
the
here,
writ.
it says here, give each candidate or the representative or counting agent of the candidate a completed and signed copy of the Parliamentary Elections Results Collation form as set out in Form 1C of the schedule, and a Parliamentary Election Results Summary Sheet as set out in Form 1D. So you need to get Form 1C and Form 1D.
And Form 1D, you are not entitled to Form 1B.
But he says that endorse on the writs specified in Form 1B of the schedule the name of the person elected.
Beautiful. That one is sent to the commission. It's not given to candidates. So if somebody says that, where is our Form 1B? We don't have. It's not to be given to any political party. No political party ever has Form 1B. That is the writ he will send it back. That is why they call him a returning officer. You see, he's returning the writ. That was given for him.
So what you sent me is Form 1C. You have the Form 1C.
We have the Form 1C.
Well, where is your Form 1D?
The Form 1D is the one which is down there, which is a summary sheet. That gives you the totals. That was teased out from the Form 1C. So you see that they mentioned the totals there of each candidate.
Yeah, Evans, give me a second. Evans. Let me hear him out.
So you see, so these two documents, if they decided to run away and don't take it, go and look at Regulation 48. Your absence of your candidate doesn't invalidate what the returning officer is doing. It's there, Regulation 48. So if their agents ran away from the place because they were defeated and they didn't have those copies, you shouldn't come and say that because they don't have the copies, it means it didn't happen. So we took our copies.
Okay, so but you've gone to court.
Yeah, we've gone to court.
What do you want?
Well, what we want is them to stop that recollection thing.
The EC says they're going to do this.
They're going to do it, and we say we want to stop it.
But this is an
It's
application.
illegal.
It hasn't been granted yet. They can do it tomorrow.
No, they cannot, because it has arrested. It's an ex parte motion, and we've gone there. We've given all the reliefs that we want.
It hasn't been granted. It's an application that you filed. The court has not
see,
granted it yet.
why we are saying this, the Electoral Commission, time immemorial, has been using application to arrest issues. You remember the issue of Kobna Dufo, our parliamentary primaries, presidential primaries. When he went to court, applied for injunction, and the application was sent to Electoral Commission. Do you know what they told us? They told us they were not going to conduct the primaries for us because one of the candidates has gone to apply for injunction. This is Electoral Commission.
So you expect them to stop the process?
That is why they stopped the Nsawawa Adojiro. We told them that you cannot be using one principle when it suits you right, and then when it comes to another principle, you want to run away from it. Clearly, we are telling them that whatever they are involved in doing is illegal. The law, this CI 127, has nothing to do with recollation. It has not said anything about recollation. It's not in this one. Don't go and bring Dr. Farajan time CIs.
Dr. Santi makes a point. This is fundamentally about who legitimately won elections.
Yes.
And that is, can be proven with the pink sheets. Is really the primary document for proving who has won. So why don't you simply produce your pink sheet? The EC would now collate those to determine who actually won.
Evan, it's the same.
Isn't that a simple way of dealing with this? With reasonable, candidates from two parties?
The EC did this collation. It wasn't collated by the NDC.
Yes, but there's a dispute over that.
The EC collated it and produced a summary sheet and produced a collation form, that is 1C and 1D, and gave us copies. Based on that, they declared the results. Somebody is not satisfied with that and saying that he wants another recollation. We say there's no law like that, calling for recollation. If you want it, go to court.
So what you're saying is that you're not ready to compromise around this unless a court makes a determination.
Simple and short, finito, because the law is very explicit. 43, regulation 43, 1 up to H is explicit on the procedure. We have it.
Evans, you wanted to make an intervention.
Yes, thank you once again, Evans. And I'm happy that the young man who sits at the studio is not a lawyer. And even when issues are before the court of competent jurisdiction, there may be varied opinions. Here we are. I'm not saying that we should use the CIs of oath. As Dr. Pomponi said, we are guided by history. And so, yes, if you've gone through this and you could cite, it's not out of place. All we're saying is that the CI 127 Regulation 43 is an event. And I mentioned earlier that it wasn't only the candidates of the parties, but the returning officers. There were police officers assigned, and there were media people as well. We can find out from all of them. But here we are, they've gone for an application. And I know that the lawyers are divided over issue of application and all that. But
do you also expect the EC to halt the collation?
We cannot direct the EC. Today, we were invited by the IGP. We had some conversation. Dr. Rashid is quoting Regulation 48. We cited it to him.
I'll give it to you.
They did not allow for collation to be done at the constituency level. The EEC directed that it should be continued at the regional level. They still did not allow it. They did not create the environment that was conducive enough for collation to be done. It was the reason why the EC took the decision with the police that it should be done at this venue. Even at that venue, Tesano Police Training School, you have to go through some checks to get to the collation center. Dr. Rashid sits here and is talking this way because today They have the numbers. But I'm saying that the presidential vote, the New Patriotic Party got it. And we said that for the many votes we've collated from all these polling stations, 40,648, plus the 328 special voting centers, Mr. Mahama has gained more than we have gotten. Therefore, he's in the position to constitute government. We congratulated him. It has gotten to parliamentary elections. The conclusion of it is that the returning officer must issue a rate to the EC. If they have the rate, it says that the rates are not supposed to be given to parties. That is so. The rate must move from the returning officer to the EC, so the results will be gazetted. Has that been done? Were the returning officers able to generate Form 1C and Form 1D? If that were done, and there were still issues, you can only go to court as a party if the results have been gazetted.
Okay, but they're already in court. So, I mean, your reaction to that is that you wait for the court to decide on the matter.
They are entitled to that route they've taken. But for us, I think the New Patriotic Party has been very law-abiding from day one. We've gone through this process.
Yeah, I mean, in the interest of time,
yielded to the law.
Yeah, in the interest of time, very quickly, when do you still expect the recollation to go ahead?
That decision is the EC's.
Okay, and whatever decision the EC takes, you would comply.
We will comply, but we know that the process has not ended. That is why the EC directed that it should move from the district to the regional level, and then it's back to the national.
Okay.
I don't see why the NDC is running away from a situation where they think that they have the numbers. Okay. And I can tell you that they don't have any pinch. They don't have it.
I mean, and that's something that will determine later. Dr. Rashid, you expect the court to be quick about this because of how contentious this is. I mean, January 7 is just around the corner.
Very well. Well, that is why we've run to the court. I'm surprised my good friend is not interested in the court because I know
no, he didn't say that. He says that they
well,
will
in their press conference, in their press conference, they said they were not going to court. They were ready.
Yeah, but you have gone. Now that you've gone to court. At the time you were doing the press conference, they didn't know that you had gone to court.
So, but we want them to know that let's battle it in the law court so that we will deal with that matter.
Yeah. Let me quickly give a quick word to Dr. Sante. So now it's in the court's bosom now to decide this particular matter. That's where this ends, right? I mean, beyond this, you expect all parties to stay any conversation around this and allow the court to do its work and decide the matter?
Well, I mean, it's easier said than done. I mean, as I said, the kind of commotion you saw at the regional office today could tell you that the longer all these processes go on, because as I said, yes, you go and make an injunction, the court then have to deal with the substantive case of whether or not there was, a valid declaration. And then when that is done, somebody then have to decide whether or not they are contesting it and going to court to go and make another determination. And as this is all going on, people are whipping up sentiments about who won and who lost. So I just think that, yes, if the parties cannot find a space to sort of find a consensus around this, then of course the law courts have to decide. But at the end, we will come to the same thing. We have to go back to those pink sheets. And I wanted to ask Dr. Rashid something. In the 5 cases that the NDC have gone to court, what was the reason from the Electoral Commission for asking for a recollation or trying to do a recollation?
Well, they said
what was complicated to the parties? Well,
they said those pronouncements or declarations did not follow due process, and they were done under duress.
Yeah,
these were the 2 major reasons, and we think that those things. It's only the court of competent jurisdiction that can deal with that matter.
Yeah,
because
Dr.
they
Sante,
cannot define.
That's the answer. Your quick thoughts before we wrap up.
Yeah. No, I mean, no, that's fine, because I just wanted to understand that it's not because maybe somebody was asking for a recollation, that's why that process was, reorganized. So at least that's also another question that the court is supposed to answer, whether or not the Electoral Commission's reasons are grounded in law. So, as I said, it's going to be another long. But I'm hoping that even in the midst of all of this, we can still have an IPAC and really come to some consensus
That's
on,
what we asked
on
for.
some
They
of these
refused.
other issues that we are dealing with, so we can mitigate the fallout from it.
Okay, Doc, thank you very much. Dr. Rashid Tanko, I'm grateful. Evans, I'm grateful. Enjoy the rest of the evening.
Oh, Evans.